What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Tuesday, June 27th edition of the MLB Sims video. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And we have a full 15-game MLB slate tonight, including a Coors game where the Dodgers have an implied run total of nearly 8. So should be a pretty interesting slate to look at the Sims, see how we can find ways to get to that really good Dodgers team while still having a chance to win tournaments and not be holding hands with everybody else. A lot of different strategies you can employ on a slate of this size, and that Coors slate definitely makes it pretty unique. So we'll have a lot to talk about, a lot to walk through looking at these lineups. I crunched 1,500 five-man stacks, simulated them, and this will give us a good look early in the day. Obviously things can change, ownership projections change, lineups come out, and teams look better or worse than expected. But for now, taking an early look at how we can approach this slate. First, we're going to sort by simulated ROI and go ahead and select the top 150 lineups there. Now, just looking down these lineups, you can see that the Dodgers are showing up quite a bit, as you would expect, given that they have about a 7.8 implied run total tonight against Connor Siebold in Colorado. What I want to pay attention to in these lineups, because we know the Dodgers are going to be the most popular stack. Right now, we have them projected for about 18% aggregate ownership. The next highest owned team is Cleveland at 12%. Everybody else is about 5% or less. So the Dodgers, far and away, the most popular team on this slate, as you would expect. So I think you want to walk through these lineups and see exactly what's going on to differentiate. When you're talking about tournaments, they're typically going to be top heavy. And especially as the field size gets larger, you need to find ways that you can, end up at the top of those tournaments and not, just be competing with tons and tons of people with the same lineup. So what's going to stand out from this first lineup, Brady Singer and Garrett Whitlock, the two pitchers, neither of them are pulling much ownership at all. Whitlock right now getting projected for about 1% ownership. Singer is $5,200 facing Cleveland. He's projected for about 1% ownership as well. So we have no ownership coming into the pitching. That helps us offset the popular bats. As far as the one-offs in this lineup, we have Julio Rodriguez, who's projected for about 8% ownership in a good matchup tonight. Leody Taveras from the bottom of the Texas order, not getting a ton of ownership. And Eduardo Escobar from the Angels, also not expected to be that popular. So we do a good job in this lineup of offsetting ownership. And I think that's going to be the case for most of the lineups that show up here at the top. If you're playing five-man Dodger stacks, that's fine, especially with it being a 15-game slate. Their ownership still is projected to be, most of the individual players, 20 to 25%, which is high, but it's not astronomical. You can still find ways around it. Whitlock and Singer, certainly one way to do it. The next lineup we have here, another five-man Dodger stack. Here it's with Kershaw and Singer. So again, a very cheap Brady Singer facing a popular Cleveland team. Singer hasn't been good this year, but $5,200. There's obvious upside there for a fully stretched out starting pitcher. And he also wasn't bad last year. So, there is a chance that he turns things around sooner rather than later. You have Kershaw, who's also only projected for about 8 or 9% ownership. He's in Coors Field, but Colorado only has a 4.2 implied run total. Kershaw has been very good this year. Don't mind using him as a differentiation play as well. Looking at the bats, you have Joey Meneses, Eduardo Escobar, and Jack Sawinski as your one-offs. Nobody there that's going to be pulling much ownership. Here we have a five-man Cleveland stack. I mentioned they were the second most popular team. We're getting to a popular Ohtani as SP1, an unowned or low-owned Rich Hill as SP2. Then you're getting the five-man Cleveland stack. You have a Mookie Betts one-off, Matt Vierling, and Danny Jansen. Betts will be popular. Vierling and Jansen, not so much. So this is a team where you're getting value from Cleveland. It allows you to get one of the best one-offs in Betts. It allows you to get the highest projected pitcher in Ohtani. We got a few more Dodger stacks in there. We get a Texas stack in a good matchup tonight, paying down to Brian Wu as your, in this case, SP1. Once again, going to Brady Singer, who's really cheap. You get the five-man Texas stack with Rodriguez, who has shown up in a couple of these lineups already. Freddie Freeman, very good one-off there. And then you're punting the catcher spot a bit with Jose Trevino. Now, one other thing I wanted to pay attention to, if you sort these lineups by win percentage, you are going to get a little bit flatter exposures to your stacks, to your hitters. You're going to get exposure to more five-man stacks because this is, you're finishing in first place as opposed to your simulated ROI, which is factoring how often you're expected to cash and all of that. I do think that this isn't a bad approach to take in your larger field tournaments, your $15, $50K or $100K to first, whatever it may be, type tournaments, because they are very, very top heavy. Sometimes you get 50K to first, 5K to third out of tens of thousands of people. So when you do that, you still get the Dodgers showing up here, but not as much. We get a Baltimore 5-man stack with Taj Bradley, who is 9,400, not getting much ownership, and Shohei Ohtani. You get a Seattle stack in a good spot with Gossman and Hill. So that's interesting. And we'll look at the exposure differences between those two different approaches as well. So we want to go back to the top simulated ROI, select the top 150 lineups, click exposures here. And when you look at the 5-man stack exposures, you're getting a ton of the Dodgers, 61% 5-man stacks to the Dodgers. Next highest team is Seattle at about 9%. So as we saw when we were looking through those lineups originally, Dodgers are showing up a ton, and it's just a matter of how you're able to differentiate within those lineups. Looking at individual hitter exposures, Freddie Freeman, 61%, Mookie, 49, Smith, 42, Vargas, 41. Your top 6 hitters are all Dodgers. Then you get 2 pitchers, and then you get, so yeah, your top 9 hitters are all Dodgers. I've said before in these videos that typically I like to see the exposure for hitters naturally just sort of end up capped around 30%. There are exceptions though, and this is one. The 2 most obvious exceptions are typically going to be short slates and the core slates. And this is a core slate on steroids, with the Dodgers again having a near 8 implied run total, a run and a half higher than anywhere else on the slate. So the Sims Tool is just essentially jamming them in. Again, it's a risky approach because it is still baseball. There is still like an 80% chance that the Dodgers fail today as a stack, but they're just so clearly the best spot. And with there being 15 games, it's not that difficult to differentiate those lineups. So they're showing up a lot if you sort by simulated ROI. When we look at the pitchers specifically, I would expect that we're getting, as we saw in those lineups, that we're getting some lower owned pitching to offset the Dodgers. So we have David Peterson and Brian Wu, 2 of the better mid-range values, 31 and 29% respectively. Ohtani showing up around 17%, so we're about half the field on him, about double the field on Kershaw as a high upside pivot. We're about a little under the field on Kevin Gossman. And then you start getting, Rich Hill, Brady Singer, Garrett Whitlock, Jordan Montgomery, Suarez, Perez, not jamming in any one of them in particular, but as a collective group, just getting to a lot of these cheaper, very low-owned pitchers, Michael Kopech, that are cheap or at least have good strikeout stuff, maybe not in the best matchup, but not getting much ownership, and they're going to allow you to offset some of that Dodgers ownership. Now, I wanted to go back again and sort by win percentage instead of simulated ROI and see how it differs. So if we do that, again, select the top 150 lineups, go to exposures. You're going to see the Dodgers are still at the top. Same general order, at least at the top. Dodgers 1, Seattle 2, Baltimore was 3 before. Now they're 4, but similar. But the Dodgers going from 60% to 25%. The Mariners jump up to about 11. Texas, another high upside stack that is tough to pair with the Dodgers. So when you're getting a lot of the Dodgers, you're going to lose out on a lot of Texas because it is going to be tough to pair them together. Now that you're getting less Dodgers, you do see Texas move up a bit. When we look at individual player exposures, now you get what I talked about before. Freddie Freeman, 38%. Mookie Betts, 28%. Those are your highest owned hitters, much more in line with what I typically am looking to do. Again, this is a different slate, but looking at how the pitchers break down when we sort by win percentage, we are going to get Peterson and Wu again at the top. Not as much of either one. Ohtani still coming in under the field, still over the field on Kershaw. Pitcher exposure is very, very similar here. It's more so just that we got a little bit more diversity in our stacks. So that's all we have for right. Actually, we can look at stack ROI right now as well. Looking at 5-man stack ROI, Dodgers, not surprisingly, coming in at the top. Seattle, Baltimore, Texas, basically the order that they were listed in originally when we sorted by simulated ROI. When we look at simulated ROI for players, Brady Singer, Rich Hill showing up at the top. Again, this isn't to say that they're necessarily the best plays. They're just going under-owned, and they allow you to build really good lineups around them. So they're going to be showing up more than the field in these simulated lineups. So that's all I have for you right now. It looks like a day where you're going to be playing a lot of Dodgers and cores, deservedly so. They are showing up a ton, and you're just trying to find ways to balance them out, whether that's using inexpensive, low-owned pitching, whether it's using low-owned one-offs, doing a bit of both. Dodgers are showing up a lot, clearly the key to the slate. So thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to tune in for the deeper dive and live before lock shows tonight starting at 4:45 Eastern. And good luck on tonight's slate. Thanks again for checking out the video.